Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies. And this is Aid and Assistance from the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. Aid and Assistance. The duty of aiding and assisting not only all worthy distressed Master Masons, but their widows and orphans also, wherever so dispersed over the face of the globe, is one of the most important obligations that is imposed upon every brother of the mystic tide by the whole scope and tenor of the Masonic Institution. The regulations for the exercise of this duty are few, but rational. In the first place, a Master Mason who is in distress has a greater claim, under equal circumstances, to the aid and assistance of his brother than one who, being in the order, has not attained that degree or who is altogether a profane. This is strictly in accordance with the natural instincts of the human heart, which will always prefer a friend to a stranger, or as it is rather energetically expressed in the language of Long Tom Coffin, a messmate before a shipmate before a stranger before a dog. And it is also strictly in accordance with the teachings of the Apostle of the Gentiles, who has said, "As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith." Galatians 6:10. But this exclusiveness is only to be practiced under circumstances which make a selection imperatively necessary, where the granting of relief to the profane would incapacitate us from granting similar relief to our brother. Then must the preferred be given to him who is of the household. But the earliest symbolic lessons of the ritual teach the Mason not to restrict his benevolence within the narrow limits of the fraternity, but to acknowledge the claims of all men who need it, to assist. Inwood has beautifully said, "The humble condition both of property and dress, of penury and want, in which you were received into the lodge, should make you at all times sensible of the distresses of poverty, and all you can spare from the call of nature and the due care of your families should only remain in your possessions as a ready sacrifice to the necessities of an unfortunate, distressed brother. Let the distressed cottage feel the warmth of your Masonic zeal, and, if possible, exceed even the unabating ardor of Christian charity. At your approach, let the orphan cease to weep, and in the sound of your voice, let the widow forget her sorrow." Sermons, page 18. Another restriction laid upon the duty of aid and assistance by the obligations of Masonry is that the giver shall not be lavish beyond his needs in the disposition of his benevolence. What he bestows must be such as he can give, without material injury to himself or family. No man should wrong his wife or children that he may do a benefit to a stranger or even to a brother. The obligations laid on a Mason to grant aid and assistance to the needy and distressed seem to be in the following gradations. First, to his family, next to his brethren, and lastly, to the world at large. So far, this subject has been viewed in a general reference to that spirit of kindness which should actuate all men, and which it is the object of Masonic teaching to impress on the mind of every Mason as a common duty of humanity, and whose disposition Masonry only seeks to direct and guide. But there is another aspect in which this subject may be considered, namely, in that peculiar and technical one of Masonic aid and assistance due from one Mason to another. Here there is a duty declared, and a correlative right inferred, for it is the duty of one Mason to assist another. It follows that every Mason has the right to claim that assistance from his brother. It is this duty that the obligations of Masonry are especially intended to enforce. It is this right that they are intended to sustain. The symbolic ritual of Masonry, which refers as, for instance, in the first degree, to the virtue of benevolence, refers to it in the general sense of a virtue which all men should practice. But when the master reaches the third degree, he discovers new obligations which restrict and define the exercise of this duty of aid and assistance, so far as his obligations control him. The Mason, as a Mason, is not legally bound to extend his aid beyond the just claimants in his own fraternity. To do good to all men is, of course, inculcated and recommended. To do good to the household is enforced and made compulsory by legal enactment and sanction. Now, as there is here, on one side a duty, and on the other side a right, it is proper to inquire what are the regulations or laws by which this duty is controlled and this right maintained. The duty to grant and the right to claim relief Masonically is recognized in the following passage of the Old Charges of 1722. But if you discover him to be a true and genuine brother, you are to respect him accordingly. And if he is in want, you must relieve him if you can, or else direct him how he may be relieved. You must employ him some days, or else recommend him to be employed. But you are not charged to do beyond your ability, only to prefer a poor brother that is a good man and true before any other poor people in the same circumstances. This written law agrees in its conditions and directions, so far as it goes, with the unwritten law of the order, and from the two we may deduce the following principles. 1. The applicant must be a master mason. In 1722, the charitable benefits of masonry were extended, it is true, to entered apprentices, and an apprentice was recognized in the language of the law as a true and genuine brother. But this was because at that time only the first degree was conferred in subordinate lodges, fellow crafts and master masons being made in the Grand Lodge. Hence, the great mass of the fraternity consisted of apprentices, and many masons never proceeded any further. But the second and third degrees are now always conferred in subordinate lodges, and very few initiates voluntarily stop short of the master's degree. Hence, the mass of the fraternity now consists of master masons, and the law which formerly applied to apprentices is, under our present organization, made applicable only to those who have become master masons. 2. The applicant must be worthy. We are to presume that every mason is a good man and true until a lodge has pronounced to the contrary. Every mason who is in good standing, that is, who is a regularly contributing member of a lodge, is to be considered as worthy in the technical sense of the term. An expelled, a suspended, or a non-affiliated mason does not meet the required condition of a regularly contributing member. Such a mason is therefore not worthy and is not entitled to Masonic assistance. 3. The giver is not expected to exceed his ability in the amount of relief. The written law says, you are not charged to do beyond your ability. The ritual says that your relief must be without material injury to yourself or family. The principle is the same in both. 4. The widows and orphans of a master mason have the claim of the husband and father extended to them. The written law says nothing explicitly on this point, but the unwritten or ritualistic law expressly declares that it is our duty to contribute to the relief of a worthy distressed brother, his widow, and orphans. 5. And lastly, in granting relief or assistance, the mason is to be preferred to the profane. He must be placed before any other poor people in the same circumstances. These are the laws which regulate the doctrine of Masonic aid and assistance. They are often charged by the enemies of Masonry with a spirit of exclusiveness, but it has been shown that they are in accordance with the exhortation of the apostle, who would do good, especially to those who are of the household, and they have the warrant of the law of nature. For everyone will be ready to say, with that kindest-hearted of men, Charles Lamb, I can feel for all indifferently, but I cannot feel for all alike. I can be a friend to a worthy man, who, upon another account, cannot be my mate or fellow. I cannot like all people alike. And so as Masons, while we should be charitable to all persons in need or in distress, there are only certain ones who can claim the aid and assistance of the order, or of its disciples under the positive sanction of Masonic law. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.